Hello everyone and welcome to Magnolia Craft. I'm Megan and today we're going to be working on part 2 of this Cinnamon and Clove mini album. We're going to start with making the base pages. So I have cut 8 pieces of black cardstock down to 8.5 by 5. We're going to score them all at 8 inches or half an inch depending on what side you're more comfortable scoring on. I always find it's a lot easier to score on the side that is farther away from the edge of the scoreboard, but you do whatever works for you, just as long as you have a half-inch flap. Now we're going to burnish all of those score marks so that it's nice and crisp on all 8 pieces. Now it's time to add sticky tape to the flap on all 8 pieces. After we've added the sticky tape, we're going to go ahead and miter the corners of the flap so that the edges don't show when we put them together. Each page will require 2 of these pieces, so we'll have 4 pages in our book. Now we're going to take 2 of the pieces and remove the sticky tape backing from one of them. I'm going to add some glue stick all over the sticky tape on that flap, just so in case I get it in the wrong spot, I can easily peel it back up and move it, which you'll see that I did do that. So I'm glad I put the glue stick on, otherwise I would have been really mad at myself. So you're just going to attach the flap to the edge of the second piece and then make sure that your edges are flush, and then remove the sticky tape backing from the other flap and repeat the process. Once we're done with this, we should essentially have a paper tube that we'll be able to slip onto the fins of our spine piece when we create it. Now it's the fun part. We're going to build some interactive elements for each page. We're going to start with a pocket. So I've got a piece of black cardstock that I've cut down to 6 by 4 that I'm going to score at half an inch and 5.5 inches. Then I'll turn it and score it at 3.5 inches. Now I'm going to take an old Martha Stewart border punch that is in my stash and make a decorative edge along the top of this pocket. This is not a necessary step, but it does add some flair to the page. It's also really hard for me to line them up, as you can tell as you watch me struggle for way too long. Now I'm going to trim off the edge that the punch left, and then I'm just going to miter the corners of the other side of the pocket. This will make it easier for us to fold it and attach it to the page. Then I'm going to miter the top corners, and I realized after I went to fold it that some of the punch actually shows through the hole in the punch, so I'm going to point that out to you right now and then trim it off on both sides. Now I'll go ahead and burnish down all those folds and add sticky tape to each of the 3 flaps. Now I'm going to peel up some of the tape backing on the two side flaps so I can attach the bottom flap to the tape on them. That way, hopefully our whatever insert we go to put in this pocket doesn't get caught on the bottom flap. Also, because we're using sticky tape and not wet glue, it never actually dries, so if anything does get behind there, it's liable to get stuck and ruin whatever the insert is. Next we have two pieces of black cardstock cut at 5 inches by 9 inches. I'm going to score them both at 4.5 inches and then turn it and score it at 4.5 inches again. Now we're going to cut away the excess flap on both of these pages. So at the 4.5 mark down the middle, we're going to make a slice on the small flap and then cut away that entire flap at the bottom. Then we'll miter the corners of the piece that's left. We'll do the same thing on both pieces. Now I'm going to take my We Are Memory Keepers corner chomper and use the half-inch side to round all of the free corners. So all of the corners except the ones where the flap is. Now I'll burnish all of the folds on both of these pieces and add sticky tape to the flap. I do want to make sure that they're orientated so that when I attach them to the base page, they will be upside down from each other. So I'm putting the sticky tape on one side on the first one, and then on the second one I'll actually put it on the opposite side so that they tape in correctly when I go to assemble. Alright, I went ahead and cut all my pattern paper, which I'll give you dimensions for as we go, and it's time to assemble. I'm going to take two small magnets and put them roughly in the middle of the page, but one towards the top and one towards the bottom. I will secure these with some sticky tape. I'm also going to take a piece of clear packing tape and actually cover the bottom magnet with that, because it'll be under our pocket and I don't want any insert we have to get stuck on it as it goes in and out. Now I'm going to take my first decorative piece of paper, which is cut to 4 3/4 by 5 3/4. I'm going to attach it at the top. We could have cut one that covered the entire piece, but our pocket will be at the bottom, so why waste paper? Now I'll cover my pocket with a piece cut to 4 3/4 by 2.5 inches, but you'll have to make your measurement based on whatever punch you use or whether you even use a punch. So just make sure you measure before you cut. Now I'll attach the pocket by removing all of the tape backing and putting some art glitter glue all over the tape. This will make it so that if I put it in the wrong spot, I can just pull it back up and replace it. You can use glue stick as well. It's just whatever you have handy. You do definitely want to do a dry fit of this before you actually attach it to make sure that your pocket isn't bigger than your page. So you don't want it to go over the edge and get in the way when you go to attach it to the spine. I also use a ruler to kind of get into the pocket and make sure I don't have any glue seeping out, which might make the pocket close and not allow me to put an insert in. Now we'll attach the flip-flops by removing the tape backing and inserting the tab into the hole of the tube of the base page. You want to make sure that your tape is getting attached to the underside of the page that you're working on, because you still need to attach this to the spine once you're all done. So just remember that that tube always has to be able to open. Again, I'm using some glue stick so that if I mess up, I can move it and try again. You want to make sure that you're not going over the score mark so that your flip-flop can easily close. Now I'll repeat the process with the other flip-flop. Now I really want to make sure that these don't flop around when the person is opening this, so I'm going to add more magnets to secure the flip-flops. I'm also super awkward with the magnets, so this took a lot longer than it should have. I attached a piece of sticky tape to the bottom of the magnet and then let the magnet catch the one underneath, and then close the flip-flop over on top of it so that the paper caught the sticky tape. I'm also going to do it again on the other side of this flip-flop because I want to make sure that when we've got all of the cardstock and all of the pictures on here that these magnets still catch. And I don't trust them very much, so I figure more magnets better. So I've cut 4 pieces of designer cardstock and 4 pieces of pink cardstock down to 4 1/4 by 4 1/4. I'm adding in the pink cardstock because I want to make sure that we have enough paper to make this book, and it adds a little diversity to the pages. After I've decided which piece is going to go where, I'm going to corner chomp the corresponding corner on each flap. Okay, so here's where I have to admit to being a dum-dum. I turned off the camera to do all this corner chomping and then never turned it back on. So I glued down all of the paper without recording. So instead, I'm going to show you a walkthrough of where all the pages were and what it looks like when it's done. You didn't really miss much. Literally all I did was take some art glitter glue and glue the pages together. Alright, that's it for part 2. Make sure to give this video a like if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to this channel so that you don't miss any of the upcoming parts where we finish the book. Make sure to leave me a comment if you have any questions or if you have any suggestions for me, and I'll see you next time.